Alright, so welcome back. Today we're out here in the garage again and we're working on the transmission for the 76 Nova. Now, in an earlier episode I mentioned how I had a really bad transmission leak coming out of this thing, and it's coming from the front pump seal area right along here. So I don't know how well this showed up in camera, but it's extremely wet right in here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take the front pump out. There are two seals here. So there's one main seal that goes against the casing, and then there's another ring that goes along like the middle of the casing of the pump. The kit also comes with some new seals for right around here around the input shaft, but then also for around the heads of each of the bolts. So once we get this thing pulled out, we should be able to slap those new seals in there, and then this thing should be nice and watertight moving forward. Okay, so now these bolts are 1/2 inch, so we got our trusty little 3/8 impact drive here, so let's go ahead and get these bolts out. Okay, great. And now with all the bolts out, now there is a kit that they sell to pull this pump from the assembly here. However, I don't have the kit. I don't really feel like spending the money in the kit. What I do have though is a slide hammer. Now if you look at some of these holes, most of them are just, hollowed out holes. But like you have a hole right here which has threads in it, so what we're going to try to do is thread in our slide hammer here, give it a few whacks, and see if we can pop this pump out. So I had this whole big monologue about how I didn't have the puller to get the pump out, and I was going to do this thing, and it was going to magically get the pump out of there. It didn't work. And I now need to suck it up and head up to the parts store and rent the puller. So we're going to go do that, and when we get back, we'll get this pump out of here. Okay, so I did a little poking around last night to try to find a front pump removal tool. I couldn't really find anything at my local parts stores. What I did come across though was a little internet hack to try to use 2 vice grips, grab onto some of these like veins here, and just yank. So we're gonna give that a shot really quick. That actually worked really well. All right, let's get this front pump out of here. Check that out. Yeah, I can see this seal is pretty much gone. You can see all this junk right along the lip here. All right, well, we're gonna get this over to the workbench, try to clean it up a little bit, and then we'll get it back in the transmission. Okay, so as part of the seal replacement, another piece we want to do is update some of these seals on the front pump here. So you have this input shaft seal here, so you can see, so we're going to replace that. There's also this carrier bearing here. The kit comes with a new one of those too. If you've ever done like a race on a hub or something like that, it's pretty much the same principle. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get in here with a screwdriver, knock these out really quick, install the new ones, and then we should be good to go. Okay, I made it sound easy, but everything's covered in transmission fluid, so it's not that easy. Let me see if I can get this thing propped up on something. seal out. A little gross. Try to clean up our mating surface a little bit here, just to make sure when we go put our new seal in, we've got a good sealing surface. You can see there's just a lot of crap built up in here. Years and years of caked on transmission fluid here. Alright, I'm going to try to knock this old bearing out of here. Woo! Alright, got the old bearing out. We have a new bearing. Does not appear to be directional. Alright, we got it in there. And we got a new seal. Alright. New seal's in there. All we need to do is kind of put this all back together, and we'll be ready to throw this back in the transmission. Okay, so we got our front pump cleaned up. We got in our kit a new front pump seal and a new O-ring as well. Now when you're putting the seal on, it is directional, as you can see. It's got all sorts of crazy different holes and patterns that line up on here. So when you're putting it on, just make sure that you're not covering up any of the holes on the pump. So you might have to try out a few different directions until eventually everything lines up. As you can see, I'm not really having a whole lot of luck at the moment. So looks like that's going to be it right there. Okay, this is pretty simple. Just take it. There's a groove here on the outside of the pump. Just slide this O-ring up and around and in, and we're in. Alright, now all we need to do is get this back in there, line everything up, and bolt it back in. Okay, hit the reset button a little bit. I came back in here and checked something really quick, and when I did, the original gasket I put back in here just, well, became useless. So I had to put a special order in for another one because nobody carries them in stock around here. So I had to wait till this morning to get it. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to try using some of these long bolts here as kind of guiding pins to guide it in, keep everything nice and in place, and yeah, hopefully not have to do this a third time. Okay, so quick update. was struggling and struggling trying to get this front pump in, and it just would not seat. Could not figure out what was going on here. So I pulled the front clutches out for the front drum here, and that's when I noticed it wasn't seated all the way in, and I couldn't get it to seat in as it was standing. So we're now gonna have to tear this thing apart, get the servo for the front drum torn apart so I can get that band out, and then see if we can get that front hub pushed back in where it's supposed to be at. Once we get that in, then we should be able to get everything else in. So I'll be back once we get that taken care of. Okay, so I got into the transmission here, and this little plastic thrust washer here had completely fallen off, and that was what was blocking this from being able to go back together correctly. So now that we got this in place where it's supposed to be, time to put all this back together, put it back in here. Okay, so I think we're back in business. As you can see, there's these little teeth here at the top. That connects into that drum back there in the back. Previously, those things were just kind of floating free, and that was what was causing our spacing issue. So now that we got this kind of put back in place, we'll just reassemble everything back up here, put our front clutches back in, and we should be able to go from there. Okay, so before I fully attempt to reassemble this thing, I'm gonna get these front clutch discs back in here again, and then we'll try to get this pump in again. So let's jump in here. Okay. Alright, that is our front pump resealed, reinstalled. I'll go ahead and put this thing back together, and off camera I'll go ahead and give it a quick cleanup with the wire wheel, and we'll better be ready to reinstall. That took a little bit more than what was expected, but you know, it just goes to show you what you can run across when you get into these projects. So anyways, until next time, this is Nick Break Stuff.